Hi, the Chappiness guy. Welcome to today's episode of Vestibular Talks. Today's special guest is Briar, also known by her Instagram account Migraine New Zealand. She's here with us today to share her story, her struggles, her successes, and how she is trying to motivate and raise awareness among the people of New Zealand by creating a group called Migraine New Zealand. So please watch the episode. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Find your Chappiness, guys. All right, and we're live.
Woohoo!
How are you today? Are you feeling good today?
Yeah, I am. I've woken up. It's kind of early morning still here, so the day hasn't kind of started to roll for me a little bit yet. So we'll wait and see what the day has.
For the people that don't know, you're from New Zealand, correct?
Yes, I am. I'm from New Zealand.
Awesome.
Little Kiwi country girl. Yeah, so it's only 11:02 here on Tuesday morning. So it's still kind of early-ish for me. I don't normally get out of bed or wake up till like 10 o'clock. So my day's only been started for like an hour.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, and thank you for being part of it.
Thank you.
You mind telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, introducing yourself, and tell us about your case?
Yeah, so I'm 22 and have been struggling with symptoms of vestibular migraine for the last 12 years and have only recently this year in June had an actual diagnosis of vestibular migraines. My symptoms were on and off previously, like daily on and off, but I was all put down to anxiety and benign proximal positional vertigo was the other one that they gave me. And yeah, and then March last year, I woke up one morning and was super incredibly dizzy. I couldn't walk in a straight line. It was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
And
I can relate. I can relate to that.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad, but I'm not glad.
I know.
Someone else out there that feels me. It was a horrible experience. At the time, I was nannying two amazing children, and they spent more time looking after me than I was actually looking after them. Yeah. They would, be sitting in the other room and be like, do you need a bucket or do you need this? And it wasn't safe for me to continue working there. So unfortunately, I did have to say goodbye to that job. And then I started my own massage business. I am a fully qualified massage therapist. So I was like, well, I'll do massage therapy because I can then pick my own hours and that sort of stuff to work around these weird things that I was having, these attacks. And then I kind of was pushing the process with my doctor. I was seeing multiple doctors to try and get a diagnosis of something other than just vertigo. And then I told my doctor one day, I cannot go on anymore. We need to find out what's going on and I need something more. Yes. And then he was like, okay, I'll book you into a specialist, but for the meantime, have a lie down and take a Panadol. And I was like, I'm sorry, but you're no longer my doctor. Like, I cannot, after all this stuff, like I wasn't having pain at that time. So for him to say, have a Panadol, I felt like he wasn't really listening to me and that sort of stuff. So I got a specialist appointment and changed my doctor. And then COVID hit New Zealand and we went into full lockdown and everything kind of like was pushed out. And then finally in June, I got my specialist appointment and he originally said it might have been Meniere's.
Yep.
And then he was like, actually, no. possibly Meniere's, but it's more so vestibular migraine and then plus or minus Meniere's. So I'm still waiting to go back in for another specialist appointment to see whether Meniere's is actually another diagnosis that I have. Yeah, so that's been like my journey since 12 years ago.
It's very interesting because you're fairly young, and not many people get this with such intensity at such young age. So people get smaller episodes when they are teenagers, maybe getting into their 20s, and then a big episode in their 30s or 40s. But you seem to have gotten a big episode in your 20s. So
Yeah.
so it's very very interesting. And when you said that you've been dealing with it for 12 years, what were the symptoms during those 12 years? What were you experiencing?
So I had what this first thing that caused, well, what I think caused it was I had a blackout episode. I was sitting doing this choir thing that we were doing at school. I was year 8 at the time, and I just completely blacked out. But I still remember parts of it, so I didn't completely go out. I was still partly there. But from that moment on, I felt like I've had this falling, fainting sensation throughout my body. And it would come that I almost need to like move my body to get rid of it, if that makes sense. Yes. And that's what I kept having to describe to my doctors. And they were like, oh, it's anxiety. It's all in your head. I'm like, no, but it's not, because I can actually like feel this sensation. Yeah. It's not all in my head. And I would get like visual snow in my eyes and aura, which at one point I woke up one Saturday morning and was getting in the shower, and I completely lost my eyesight in my left eye.
Wow.
And I called our Healthline here in New Zealand because I was like, it's expensive to go to a doctor because my doctor only works Monday to Friday. So I called the Healthline here in New Zealand, was like, this is what's happening. What am I to do? And they're like, you probably have a detached retina and you need to go to like hospital now.
Right away.
So I went to my walk-in clinic, which kind of acts as like a triage walk-in type thing. And the guy was like, the doctor was like, you're having a migraine attack. Put on some sunglasses. Don't eat caffeine, don't drink caffeine, don't have chocolate and no cheese, and you'll be good to go. And I was like, oh, okay. Like no one else in my family had ever had migraines before. So I was like, there's 3 things and I should be good to go. Like I'll take those out and
it was that simple,
Yeah, but it's not that simple. Now that I found out when I have it chronically. Yeah, so that was like my first, so that was also one of my symptoms. And then from that time on, which I was probably 12, 10, probably like 9 years ago was when I had my first migraine attack. And then it kind of became like a 1 month thing, and then it would stop and I wouldn't have it for months, and then it would come back. But I never really had pain. Like I would go to sleep the minute I was having an attack, when I could, and wake up to like a small minimal headache. It wasn't anything that was like out there and I was like chronic pain. So it kind of, I now since do have pain since my last specialist appointment. So I do need to go back and see them to see if there's another diagnosis in there as well. Because neither vestibular migraines or Meniere's kind of tend to have that pain. So yeah, will be interesting to see.
Well, the vestibular migraines they often say it doesn't come with pain, but it comes with some sort of pressure in the head. So it's not like a pain. How would I put this? It's not like a sharp pain. It's more of a dull pain. Like you feel this pressure, this tightness, and then you feel it in your ears, and then you feel it behind your eyes. So it could be vestibular migraines, but it's just reflecting more pain.
Yeah, so I have the pressure in my ears and in behind my eyes as well. But this one is like a pain that starts in like the back of my neck and then comes all up and like up in here, and yeah, so
it's so frustrating because for us being so young, like we have our life ahead of us, and this puts such a hold to everything, to work in life, to school, to family life, to relationships, because it's so debilitating. Like people don't understand how debilitating this is, because we look normal, like talking to you right now. People might see you and say, oh, she looks normal, but you're trying to look normal. You're not looking normal on your own. You're trying to look normal because you're going through all these weird symptoms and sensations.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing that you said is Meniere's. Yes. So Meniere's doesn't often happen in young people. It happens often in people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. However, it's so hard to separate Meniere's and vestibular migraines because the symptoms are so alike. They are so intertwined. The only thing that I guess separates them is hearing loss. So have you had a hearing test to check your hearing?
I have. I've had 2 hearing tests, and my left ear was sort of losing hearing. But the first time I had it, I was in the middle of an attack. So I was in that chronic vertigo constantly stage. So that it was very minor. They said it was like a very minor loss or dull sound type thing. But then my next one was, again, they were like, I wasn't in an attack at the time, but they were like, there is still a little bit of hearing loss, but not as much to just straight up be like it's Meniere's. So that's why he was kind of like, we want to do another one, do another audio test, and then go from there and see. But I totally agree. I having it 12 years ago when I first started getting my symptoms, I was so scared to go out, to go to the movies with my friends. Like I was like 12 at the time, and I was like, I'm having these weird things. I feel like people will see it and I don't want people to see it. And I was going to this, I can't sit in a movie for that long because of this feeling and like the visual snow, and that I just felt really uncomfortable. So I spent most of my time growing up in those teenage years where I was I spent more time at home than I did actually going out and exploring and living my life, because I was in such fear. And people were like, oh, she's just anxious and she just doesn't want to go out and she's lazy. And I'm like, I'm not.
I know.
This is legit. Like, this is what I feel. And yeah.
And you're right. People often say, oh, it's laziness. It's anxiety and it's laziness. It's not laziness. It's that it takes a lot to function. It takes a lot to function normally. So no, I know what you mean. Now that you saw this as a specialist, what has he said regarding medication or treatment? Has he given you any hope?
Yeah, so I'm now with another doctor, and when I went into my doctor's appointment a week after my specialist appointment, he said you need to go back to your doctor to get migraine preventative medication and things like that. So I went into my doctor and was like, hi, first time meeting her. I've never met her before. I'm at a completely different clinic to what I used to be at. And she was like, yeah, I can see vestibular migraines right like that. And I was like, I've been spending so much time and money trying to find what was going on with me. And I sit down into this appointment and she can see it straight away. And I was like, how is it the doctors that aren't quite understanding? Is it like, what is it? But she was like, I've had a few people come in with me with this, and that's kind of where we've gone down the path. So I'm currently taking amitriptyline.
Okay.
As a preventative medication. And it's kind of helped me 40%. I'd say I still have really bad fatigue after an attack. My attacks are a little bit less, but I still have some of my symptoms that are there, but I'm still in that trial period where they're like, just wait it out,
Yeah.
to
It's a
like
while
see
for
if,
it.
yeah, to kick in and see more. But I've definitely had an improvement, and I will take any improvement whatsoever.
I agree, 1,000% agree with you. Something that you mentioned that is extremely accurate is the time that we spend trying to figure it out a solution to this, and the money. Financially, this takes a toll on you. I've spent about $40,000 going from a specialist to a specialist, trying supplements, trying vitamins, trying diets, trying everything because you're desperate to find a solution. You're desperate trying to get better. So well, a lot of people don't understand the financial toll that this takes on someone. So how has it been for you being fairly young, starting your life and having to pay all these medical expenses? Are you coping with that?
I'm not coping, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I have an amazing supportive boyfriend who's been there with me through all the tests and everything, which if I was doing this alone, I would be 100% more like down in the dumps.
Yeah.
With New Zealand, I'm not able to get on the disability financial thing. My doctor doesn't want me working / I can't work. So I've actually had to close down my massage business now as well. So I have no work and no nothing to kind of financially build me up.
Wow.
And I kind of used my savings when I first started getting symptoms a year ago. So kind of now I have kind of nothing. New Zealand has a very old-fashioned type of disability allowance type thing where it depends on who your partner or your family, how much money they earn depends on whether or not you can get anything. And so my boyfriend, who I've been with for 2 years now, his income apparently by New Zealand government should be able to have me and him as well as all our pets under it. And he should be paying for everything that I'm currently going through. And that has been the most, it's horrific. I absolutely
I
hate
imagine,
it.
like, not only dealing with the condition itself, but now dealing with the fact that the government kind of leaves you fending for yourself. Like, oh well, you're not sick enough, and your boyfriend is making money, so basically figure it out on your own. Like it's so unfortunate. It's so sad. It's sad.
It really is. You know, like I feel like this little kid. I'm like, I want a new pair of pants. Like, I just want a new pair of leggings. Can I have some money? That is kind of what it's come to. And it's absolutely horrible because I feel so attached to him. Like, you know, I don't have my own individuality. Like I've got to depend on him. And yeah, and there's nothing. They can't even give me a card. We have cards here in New Zealand that can get your like doctor's appointments cheaper a little bit, and I can't even get that because he should be able to pay for that. So that has been, I've actually started up a Migraine New Zealand. So when I first kind of had my diagnosis and all these things kind of played out, there was nothing out here for me. I knew no one in New Zealand that had vestibular migraines or chronic migraines. I always thought they were just episodic and that was it, you know, once a month and that was them. So there has been nothing out here for people with migraines in New Zealand. So I have since created a Migraine New Zealand, and you know I'm pushing to get changes in the disability allowance type thing and more medication. You know, we don't have a lot of medications out here because our pharmac company that fund medication say that people should be buying the medication at the $1,000 to get one shot, and then they will start to fund it if there's a need for it. But people out here can't afford, if we're not working, we can't afford to get the medication. So it's just this never-ending cycle. So I'm really trying to advocate for people and get the word out there more for people with migraines in New Zealand.
That's amazing that you're advocating and raising awareness, and good on you for taking that initiative, because I've talked to a lot of people from New Zealand that they were on the same boat. They're like, there is nothing here, there is no support, there is no enough information, there is not enough basically recognition by the medical doctors saying, hey, yes, this is an actual disability, this is an actual condition. So you've been blessed in a way that someone actually said, hey, yes, this could be vestibular migraines, because many people, their doctors are either not familiar with it, or they just seem not to care enough to actually pursue that diagnosis. They often go with just, oh, it's anxiety, that's it.
Absolutely. And I dealt with that for 11 years. It was anxiety. I was put on anxiety medication and seeing psychologists and all these different people. And that, thankfully, at the time, my mum was paying for that, because that was a never-ending thing that I was constantly, they kept putting me onto these things. And at the time, my mum was like, I want you better, so we'll pay for this. But now it's come to this, we can't afford to pay for you anymore because we just can't. So it's financially, it's a huge struggle.
I can imagine. Since you started the New Zealand Migraine group, have you received any people reaching out to you, or people that are on the same predicament as you are with financially and struggling with getting a diagnosis and things like that?
Yeah, so we're currently at 64 members on our nice. Migraine New Zealand page. I think we're about 100 or so on the public pages.
Nice.
And I have had so many people reach out to me. I've been in touch with the Neurological Foundation in New Zealand, and nice. She said, I've actually had a few people come and email me, and they don't know what to do. The Neurological Foundation and the Brain Foundation in New Zealand don't really cover migraines as much. They cover Alzheimer's and MS and those sort of things rather than migraines. So I have been inundated from people that have said, I've now had to leave my job, but I can't get financial support. The treatment plan, a hospital has told me never to come back to them, because there's nothing they can do for me when I'm in a huge attack, and I've spent 72 hours already vomiting and all of this stuff. Now the hospital in New Zealand have said, don't come back here because there's nothing we can do for you. And that has really, it's affected people physically, that it's brought on more symptoms and things like that, but it's also affected people mentally. That's the biggest thing that a lot of people saying is, it's not just a headache. It isn't just this pain in my head. There are so many more symptoms to migraines.
It is, and you're right. Migraines is not just a headache. Migraines affects you with a lot of other symptoms, and it affects your whole life, because you're not able to perform properly at work. You're not able to perform in your daily life. If you have children, it's really hard to care for them while you're dealing with all these symptoms. So it's awareness and compassion needs to be out there, because you're right. Like, these people are being left alone to fend for themselves without the government providing any sort of resources to help them out. So it's great that you're doing that awareness and raising that issue to try and make some changes.
Yeah, thank you. It's taking its toll a little bit on me as well. I am still having my symptoms, and then as well trying to build this awareness and grow the group and things like that, because people, they're all like currently hiding, because there's never been anything for people with migraines in New Zealand before, so they haven't yet found Migraine New Zealand. They stopped looking when they first got their diagnoses, but now that there is a group, I've got to try and reach those little places where those people are, and it's hard, but I'm so passionate about it, and want there to be better support for people that are going to come through after me with migraines in New Zealand.
Yeah, and now you recently became a Vita ambassador as well, so congratulations on that.
Yeah,
congratulations.
I did indeed. I had Laura, Dizzy Diaries. I've been in touch with her kind of since my original diagnosis, and she was like, you need to get on the Vita ambassador, become on that, because there is no one out here in New Zealand, and there's no one out here that really, takes it on or advocates for people out here. And there's got to be people. If we're 5 million people in New Zealand, there has to be someone out here. Absolutely.
I've got messages.
So yeah, that's been amazing, and I've just recently been put on the page. So that's really, really good. And I've had the most amazing support from Laura and Vestibular Guru and Ash Aligned, or Ash Vestibular Ash.
Vestibular Ash.
Yeah. So they have been the most amazing and most supportive people, and been like, you need to get more out there for people in New Zealand. Laura and Etta have been the most amazing supportive people, and Etta was the one who was like, she's like my mum a little bit. She's been pushing me to get me to do things to grow the awareness in New Zealand. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful that they're there supporting me from the other side of the world.
Yes, they are great. All those ladies are great. They are such amazing people.
Yeah.
The one thing is that you have your work cut out for yourself, because a lot of people are probably misdiagnosed with anxiety or whatever else. So they might not know they have migraines. They might not know they have vestibular migraines, because in their minds, the doctors have been telling them it's anxiety or it's panic attacks or it's whatever else. So they might not be aware that there is a condition that has a name, and that even it encompasses all these symptoms. So you definitely have a lot of awareness to raise. Yes.
I do, and when my specialist originally said to me, "You've got vestibular migraines," I looked at my boyfriend and then looked back at the specialist and was like, "Are you all right? Like, I think something's wrong." I have never ever once before he said that heard of any other type of migraine other than head pain. So myself, I started from this little tiny, knowing thought it was just a headache, to now being where I'm at is a completely different mentality and passion and drive behind this. So
yes,
it's
Now, with the medication, does the preventive medication, amitriptyline, did they prescribe anything else for the pain itself, or they didn't prescribe anything else?
Well, at the time when I went to them originally to get the medication preventative, I wasn't having pain. So it's been only the last month or so that I've been having these pain attacks. So at this stage, no. I've got a specialist appointment in a couple of weeks that I'm going to then bring it up and talk with him about that, and then go back to my doctor and talk with her about it, to see what the next step is, to go through with that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Have you heard of any supplements or anything, or vitamins that might help you?
Yeah, so Dizzy Cook, the Dizzy Cook, Alicia, she, when I first found her blog, I was attached to it. It was like my best friend, and I was constantly reading her blogs and things like that on there. So my doctor originally said to me, there's no need to change your food. There's no need to do diet changes and things like that. So I've kind of gone on my own journey on that sort of thing and followed the Dizzy Cook, Heal Your Headache diet type stuff. And that has also been a huge help with my symptoms and attacks. But I take magnesium every night. And that, or I also include magnesium spray as well with the numbness and tingling that I do get, and cramps. So that has been, magnesium is really the only thing supplement-wise I've been taking. I've read a few things on caffeine when getting an attack. So I've started to trying to work through with the pain migraines, having some caffeine when they're starting to come on, and I've really felt a benefit by that. That they don't increase as much as they were before I started the caffeine, which has been really good to keep them kind of manageable. But I recently had my wisdom teeth out, and that was painful. Especially because I was so anxious going into it that I didn't want, because they were messing with my teeth and my head and my jaw, I was concerned it was going to cause a huge attack for me. And they were so supportive, that my dentist and things like that, that it was easy. It was an easy experience apart from the pain. So that was at like the start of the month, and I had used up all my pain medication that I was allocated as such. And I was like, for the rest of the month now, I'm not going to be able to take any medication, because I'm going to start to cause an overuse medication migraine headache. So that sort of stuff as well, like I had no idea that even existed, and my doctor hasn't really described that with me and talked about that, because I haven't yet had, since now, been back to her and talked to her. So yeah, I use supplements, diet. I try and exercise as much as it's hard and things like that. I try and, if I am getting an attack, I try and use exercise as a way to lower that pain and threshold and things like that. So
what does the future hold for you?
I hope everything.
Good answer.
The future holds for me to heal. I don't think I'm going to heal completely, but I definitely think that there's still more healing to be done. And the biggest thing is growing Migraine New Zealand and bringing people together through this debilitating illness, and know they're not alone, and there's other people out there that can help them and support them and go with them.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
They can find me on my personal page, Get Healthy Hope, on Instagram and Facebook. They can also find me as Migraine New Zealand on Facebook, Instagram. Podcasts, I'm doing a podcast series at the moment with Migraine New Zealand, just to kind of help people realize that they aren't alone in New Zealand, that there is actually other people out there that you can come forward and, say you live with chronic migraines, or different types of migraines. So podcast, Spotify, and Migraine on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Awesome. You're doing a lot of good work, and you know what? Like I know we just met, but I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you're doing. That's great.
Thank you so much. It's I definitely wouldn't be here today where I am without the support of the migraine community on Instagram, and places like that. So I'm very grateful, and forever have a heart for people with migraines and vestibular migraines.
We'll keep in touch, and we'll probably do a follow-up interview once you've been on the amitriptyline for a little bit longer, to see, because it should help relieve a lot of the symptoms. The amitriptyline should take a lot of it away. So I'd love to hear how that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I'll update you all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye.
Bye.